were gentlemen. I mean, they weren't assholes. They were nice men, but they were hardcore. They were hard-working men.
Sam Elliott's deep, gravelly voice has become a symbol across generations. Strong, commanding, and unmistakable. Yet behind the mustache, the cowboy hat, and that unmistakable Western swagger lies something few ever suspected, a quiet anger that has been simmering for decades. Despite the respect Sam Elliott has earned over his 6-decade career, there are 6 names he has never forgiven. Some for what they did to the craft, others for what they did to him, in work, in life, or silently behind his back. Now, at 80 years old, Sam isn't holding back anymore. He's finally ready to tell it all. And once you hear who's on that list, you'll never look at them the same way again. Let's start with the first, the actor who made Sam walk off set and never return. Ashton Kutcher, the actor Sam believed had embarrassed the craft. To Sam Elliott, acting isn't about fame or flash. It isn't a popularity contest or a playground for influencers and tech millionaires. It's a sacred craft, something forged through discipline, patience, and emotional truth. Every performance, he believed, should come from somewhere real, raw, and earned. So when Ashton Kutcher skyrocketed to fame through that 70s show, followed by a string of lightweight rom-coms and flashy tech ventures, Sam wasn't impressed. He was irritated. To him, Kutcher's rise felt like a slap in the face to everything he respected about the profession. Still, when they were cast together in Netflix's The Ranch, Sam didn't object. He showed up, learned his lines, did the work. Professional to the core. But behind the scenes, cracks appeared early. Crew members recalled the tension, a kind of quiet frost that settled even when no words were exchanged. In private moments, Sam would shake his head and mutter, "He's a nice guy, just not a real actor." It wasn't Ashton's attitude that bothered him, it was his entire approach. To Sam, Kutcher represented the new Hollywood, where algorithms mattered more than authenticity, follower counts outranked resumes, and charm replaced craft. To Sam Elliott, that wasn't evolution. It was erosion. It was erosion, slow, steady, and painful to watch. To Sam Elliott, the sacred art of storytelling was being diluted by shortcuts, surface-level performances, and glossy branding. While audiences praised the on-screen chemistry in The Ranch, Sam knew better. What they were seeing was just acting, and nothing more. Ashton Kutcher, ever charming in interviews, called Sam a legend, even referring to him as a mentor. But behind closed doors, Sam was far less generous. "He acts like a guy who learned acting from YouTube," he allegedly told a friend. It wasn't bitterness, it was principle. Sam wasn't holding a grudge. He was defending a dying code. One that demanded stillness, presence, and truth. He watched as storytelling turned into spectacle, as authenticity was replaced with algorithms and traditions were sold off for clicks. He hated it, not because he feared change, but because he saw meaning being traded for metrics. The Ranch may have worked for fans, but behind the curtain, there was no brotherhood, no bond, only tolerance. And just when Sam thought he'd seen it all, another name shook his world: Nicolas Cage. Too loud, too erratic, too much. Subtlety has always been Sam Elliott's compass. For him, great performances don't shout, they simmer. A raised eyebrow, a loaded silence, a word spoken with the weight of a lifetime. He believed that the soul of acting lived in restraint, the quiet kind of power that doesn't demand attention, it earns it. So when Nicolas Cage burst into the spotlight with his wild, high-octane energy, the flailing arms, the bug-eyed expressions, the explosive bursts of emotion, Sam didn't see genius. He saw chaos. To him, Cage wasn't channeling a character. He was putting on a spectacle. A one-man circus that hijacked every frame and drained the oxygen from the scene. Even when they worked together on Ghost Rider, Sam kept his distance. Always polite, always respectful, but never warm. Later, in interviews, he never mentioned names, but his words were sharp and unmistakable. He spoke of actors who hijacked the screen with ego, turning every moment into a personal stage play, louder, bigger, flashier. Those who knew Sam didn't need to guess who he meant. It was Cage. As Sam reportedly told one close friend, he's more firework than flame, big bang, no heat. While Nicolas Cage built a cult following on unpredictability and manic energy, Sam Elliott stayed true to what he believed mattered most: control, depth, and the quiet fire that burns steady, not wild. Sam Elliott always believed in the power of restraint, in the kind of performance that draws the audience closer, not pushes them away. To him, Nicolas Cage symbolized a troubling shift in modern cinema. A craving for shock over story, chaos over craft. What once was art had turned into spectacle. Sam saw style swallowing substance, performance turning into performance for show. And while Cage occasionally won awards and critics praised his brilliantly unhinged energy, Sam wasn't convinced, not for a second. No golden statue, he believed, could disguise hollow theatrics. To Sam Elliott, real acting wasn't about virality or shock value, it was about truth. About stillness. About finding the quiet humanity that makes a performance breathe. Those, he thought, were the qualities Cage had long abandoned. Kevin Costner, the cowboy he just couldn't stand. Sam Elliott built his entire career on authenticity. Every role, every line, came from real experience. He didn't just play a cowboy, he was one. Raised on ranches, shaped by dust, sweat, and the discipline of the Old West, Sam brought something to the screen that felt lived in and real. You could almost hear the leather in his voice and feel the years behind his gaze. People believed him because he was the real thing. So when he saw Kevin Costner cast as a cowboy in Wyatt Earp, and later as the hardened patriarch in Yellowstone, Sam wasn't impressed. To him, Costner was Hollywood's idea of a cowboy: clean boots, polished lines, and perfect lighting. It wasn't the West, it was a movie set. He once told a friend, he plays a rancher like he's dressing up for Halloween, like he's pretending to be something he'll never understand. And while fans praised Yellowstone for its breathtaking landscapes, high-stakes drama, and Costner's gravelly tone, Sam could only smirk. To him, that wasn't the West. That was make-believe. He didn't see the West he grew up with. He saw a polished illusion, built for audiences who'd never driven a fence post or smelled cattle in the morning air. To Sam Elliott, Yellowstone wasn't the real West. It was a glossy fantasy, a picture-perfect postcard dressed up to look authentic but hollow underneath. According to insiders, Sam was even offered a cameo on the show, but he turned it down flat. His response was simple and cutting: a soap opera with a cowboy hat. That decision wasn't just about rejecting a role, it was a quiet but deliberate rejection of what Yellowstone stood for. For Elliot, Westerns weren't mere entertainment, they were a code of honor. The genre demanded grit, restraint, and the kind of stoic silence that carried more weight than words. Kevin Costner, in his eyes, brought sheen, style, and a blockbuster gloss, but little soul. Even when the two shared the same room, the air grew cold. One producer later admitted, they never yelled, but the chill between them could freeze a desert. And that tension, it was only the beginning. In 2021, Sam Elliott made headlines again, this time for taking aim at another actor he believed didn't belong in the West: Benedict Cumberbatch. When The Power of the Dog hit theaters, Sam didn't hold back. There was no polite phrasing, no softened words, just raw honesty that cut like a bullet through a quiet saloon. His criticism wasn't just about the film's slow pacing or artistic choices, it was personal. Sam zeroed in on Cumberbatch, mocking his accent, his posture, and what he called a prissy portrayal of a rancher. During a podcast appearance, he scoffed, "What the hell does this Brit know about the American West?" The frustration in his voice was unmistakable, equal parts disbelief and disdain. The backlash was swift. Fans of Cumberbatch and supporters of the film's modern, psychological take on masculinity fired back immediately. Social media erupted. Critics labeled Sam a relic, a stubborn holdout from a bygone era, unwilling to evolve with the genre he helped define. They accused him of gatekeeping, of clinging to old ideals of toughness and refusing to make room for new perspectives. But Sam didn't flinch. Not then, not ever. He didn't backtrack. He didn't clarify or soften his stance. Sam Elliott stood firm, steady in his saddle. To him, the power of the dog didn't just miss the point. It betrayed the very tradition it claimed to honor. He saw it as a film that glorified fractured masculinity and misunderstood everything the Western genre was built upon. Sam wasn't attacking a single performance. He was defending a legacy. A legacy rooted in quiet strength, hard-earned wisdom, and a moral code that ran deep. Benedict Cumberbatch never fired back publicly, but those close to him say the criticism hit hard. Behind studio doors, executives quietly debated how to respond. Perhaps a subtle statement, perhaps a diplomatic counter. But in the end, Cumberbatch chose silence over spectacle. Sam, however, never wavered. He stood by every word, like an old gunslinger who'd already taken his 10 paces and fired his shot. To him, the West wasn't a costume or a cinematic filter, it was a code. A way of life built on truth, not trends. And he wasn't about to let anyone, no matter how respected, rewrite it under his watch. But the next name on his list, the one that hurt the most, wasn't an adversary. It was a friend. Jeff Bridges. The friendship that turned cold. At one time, Sam and Jeff Bridges were cut from the same cloth, rugged, grounded, poetic in silence. They didn't need grand speeches or explosive breakdowns to command a scene. Their power came from presence. That rare, magnetic stillness that few actors ever master. Both men could say more with a look than most could with a page of dialogue. Together, they created magic in The Big Lebowski, a film that became a cultural phenomenon. On screen, they were effortless, two sides of the same coin. Off-screen, they shared laughs, late-night talks, and a bond built on mutual respect and authenticity. But somewhere along the way, something changed. Not in one dramatic moment, but slowly, quietly, until the distance between them became impossible to ignore. After Bridges won his Oscar for Crazy Heart, Sam began to notice a shift. The humble, grounded man he once knew started appearing in fashion spreads, walking red carpets with political slogans across his chest, and giving sleek, carefully managed interviews. He became harder to reach, one source close to Sam recalled. Less grounded. More polished. To Sam Elliott, it felt like the honesty that once defined Jeff Bridges had been replaced by Hollywood gloss. The simplicity they had both sworn to protect, the belief that the work should speak for itself, had faded beneath the shine of fame. To Sam, it wasn't jealousy. It was disappointment, the quiet kind that cuts deeper than anger. In a rare interview, when asked about former collaborators, Sam Elliott offered a line that said everything without naming anyone. Some folks change. Others just show who they always were. To many, it sounded like a direct shot at Jeff Bridges. True to his calm and diplomatic nature, Bridges never responded, but his silence spoke volumes. The two stopped showing up at the same festivals, stopped championing each other's work, and quietly drifted apart. The brotherhood that once defined them was gone. For Sam, the pain wasn't about ego or competition. It had nothing to do with awards or politics. It was about something deeper, the slow erosion of a friendship he once believed was unbreakable. A bond built not on fame, but on shared values and mutual respect. When that foundation cracked, it left behind a quiet ache, one Sam rarely spoke of. Those close to him say he felt abandoned. Not through betrayal, but through distance. Through time. Through the painful realization that the man he once stood beside now stood somewhere entirely different. But that ache, as heavy as it was, couldn't compare to what came next. Because the final name on Sam Elliott's list was the one that truly tested his patience. Jared Leto, the method gone mad. Sam's biggest irritation in Hollywood was never arrogance or ambition, it was pretension. Not confidence, not craft, but the exaggerated self-importance that turns acting into a circus act for the performer's ego rather than the audience's experience. So when Jared Leto made headlines for his extreme method acting, sending rats to co-stars, refusing to break character for weeks, and transforming film sets into psychological endurance tests, Sam didn't see genius. He saw a gimmick. He wasn't moved by the headlines or impressed by the Oscar. If anything, he was annoyed by the spectacle. In his words, it was theatrics masquerading as talent. And when Sam Elliott said it, He meant every word. Privately, Sam Elliott was even more direct. "If he needs that much effort to act," he reportedly told a friend, "maybe he's in the wrong profession." To Sam, great acting didn't need publicity stunts or behind-the-scenes horror stories. It was about disappearing into a character, quietly, cleanly, with respect for the craft. Acting wasn't supposed to be a spectacle, it was supposed to be truth. Though Sam Elliott and Jared Leto never worked together. Insiders say Sam was once attached to a film in its early stages. He liked the script. He liked the director. But when he learned that Leto had been cast, he walked away. No statement, no phone call, just a silent exit that spoke louder than any press release. That's how firmly he drew the line. To Sam, acting was never meant to be a circus. It was meant to be human, honest, grounded, real. The kind of performance that touches people, not startles them. And that last name, Jared Leto, proved to Sam just how far the craft had drifted from its roots. At 80, Sam Elliott isn't chasing fame or roles. He's chasing truth. And part of that truth, he believes, is accepting that some actors, no matter how acclaimed, don't deserve the pedestal they're standing on. For him, acting has always been about honesty, tradition, and restraint. And if standing by those values means standing alone, he's perfectly fine with that. Because in a town overflowing with noise, Sam Elliott remains what he's always been, the last real cowboy. Now we want to hear from you. Which of these Hollywood feuds surprised you the most? Do you think Sam was being too harsh, or just being honest? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. More untold Hollywood stories are on the way.